Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're tackling Stoicism, that ancient philosophy powerhouse.
Yeah, the one focused on building resilience, virtue, reason.
Exactly, like a mental gym for staying calm. We've dug into some great stuff for you, Donald Robertson, on Stoic exercises, insights from modern Stoicism.
That Reddit thread was interesting too, plus the Stanford Encyclopedia Overview and Psychology magazine. A good mix.
Totally. And our mission today is to pull out the really practical Stoic exercises, stuff you can actually use right now to handle challenges, maybe lower stress, find a bit more peace.
And what's striking is how current it all feels, right? These aren't just historical ideas. The sources show how you can apply this stuff in your actual life for real benefits.
Okay, let's dive in. First up, getting a handle on those really strong emotions, the ones that can just, throw you off track.
Right. So the key Stoic idea, and Robertson talks about this, is that our emotions often come from our judgments, not just the event itself.
Judgments. Like how?
Well, we decide something is awful, or maybe a catastrophe. It's that judgment, that label, that really fuels the feeling.
Ah, okay, so it's our spin on it. How do we use that practically?
It's about noticing it.
Mm,
When you feel a really strong emotion bubbling up, take a sec. Ask yourself, what judgment am I making right now?
just spotting the thought behind the feeling?
Yeah. Just recognizing, okay, my take on this is making me feel this way, can kind of loosen its grip. It gives you a little breathing room between the trigger and your reaction.
Interesting. Okay, what about this idea of the Stoic sage? Is that about finding some perfect person to follow?
Not quite. That's a common misconception. The Stoics didn't really put their founders on pedestals like that. The sage or sophos is more of an ideal.
An ideal.
Yeah, like the concept of a perfectly wise, virtuous human. The point isn't to find and copy someone flawless, because, well, who is? It's about using your own reason to imagine what living with perfect wisdom would even look like.
So it's more like an internal target we aim for using our own thinking.
Exactly. We're all flawed, obviously. But the Stoics thought we have this capacity for reason, these seeds of wisdom and virtue inside us that let us envision that perfection, even if we don't reach it.
Robertson notes we're often better at seeing wisdom, or lack of it, in others than in ourselves. That feels true.
It really does, doesn't it? We have our blind spots. So the exercises, think about people you admire. What qualities do they have?
Mm-hmm.
Courage, fairness, patience.
Okay.
And then ask, how would my life change if I genuinely embodied that quality? Marcus Aurelius did this in his meditations, reflecting on what he learned from people around him.
So we use the sage idea and admired qualities to clarify our values. Then how do we actually live these values day to day?
Yeah, that's the crucial step, isn't it? Knowing is one thing, doing is another. Stoics were big on aligning daily actions with your core values, and for them, remember, these core virtues weren't just like personal preferences.
Not just follow your heart.
Not quite in that subjective way, no. Marcus Aurelius would constantly ask himself, is this thought necessary? Is this action necessary? Does it serve the goal of wisdom?
That's quite a filter.
It is. And this leads to something like activity scheduling. You consciously think, okay, what activities actually express my value of, say, justice or self-discipline? Maybe it's setting aside time for reflection, or maybe it's how you handle a difficult conversation.
And you literally schedule those in.
Yeah, you brainstorm them and intentionally build them into your routine. Even small, consistent actions that line up with your values can create real shifts in your habits over time.
Okay, let's talk about premeditatio malorum, negative visualization. That sounds kind of downbeat.
Yeah, it can sound grim at first. Thinking about bad things happening, losing your job, getting sick, even small stuff like traffic jams.
So why do it? What's the point?
It's actually a resilience tool. By mentally rehearsing potential setbacks, you kind of take the sting out of them if they do happen. You're less shocked, less derailed by the unexpectedness.
It reduces the impact.
Exactly. And maybe more importantly, by visualizing yourself coping with those things, maybe even finding a way through them, you build this quiet confidence. You know you can handle stuff. It's rational self-reliance, not pessimism.
That makes sense. Preparation, not wallowing. And this sounds related to facing fears, like that stress inoculation idea Robertson mentions.
Absolutely connected. The Stoic approach lines up really well with modern ideas like stress inoculation training or SIT. It's about gradual exposure.
How does that work?
You intentionally face stressors, maybe just in your imagination at first, or in small, manageable, real-life doses, like building up immunity. You develop coping skills and emotional resilience bit by bit.
Like exercising a muscle.
Precisely. You don't start by lifting the heaviest weight. You
Well,
build up to it.
okay, shifting gears slightly. The view from above. What's that about? Getting perspective.
That's exactly it. It's a mental exercise to pull back, get some distance. Sometimes it's visualized literally, like you're looking down on your situation from way up high.
Like on a mountain.
Yeah, or even further, taking a cosmic perspective, thinking about your tiny little place in the grand sweep of time and space.
Marcus Aurelius had some powerful lines on that, didn't he? About how short our time is, how small the earth.
He really did. It sounds humbling, maybe even diminishing, but the point is perspective. To see that most of the things we get worked up about are, well, maybe not as huge as they feel in the moment.
So the takeaway is,
Focus on what truly matters. Acting virtuously, according to your nature, and accepting the things that are part of the natural course of events, things you can't control anyway, it helps detach from petty worries.
speaking of worries,
Hmm.
what about anxieties about the past, regrets, or future fears? Stoicism must have something for that.
Oh, definitely. So much of our anxiety is rooted there, right? Rehashing mistakes or dreading what might happen.
Guilty as charged.
We all are. The core Stoic principle is focus. Put your energy where you have influence. And where's that? Right here, right now. Your present judgments, your present actions.
Because the past is done. You can't change it.
Exactly. And the future isn't here yet. Dwelling on the past, as Robertson's piece notes, those thoughts are just perceptions now, not reality. And constantly worrying or even hoping too intensely about the future pulls you out of the only time you can actually act.
That makes sense. You miss what's right in front of you.
Right. They called it decoupled cognition. Your mind is somewhere else entirely. So the advice is amor fati, love your fate, accept what is, and engage fully with the present moment using the resources you actually have.
Okay, let's make this even more concrete. The workplace.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of potential stressors there. How does Stoicism help?
Our sources had some great practical tips. One big one from Marcus Aurelius again. Don't make things harder than they need to be.
Meaning,
Focus on the task itself, methodically. Like writing your name, he said. Don't let your emotional reaction to, say, a difficult coworker blow things out of proportion. Pause. Maybe their request, even if annoying, is actually simple to fulfill. Avoid unnecessary drama. It ties into Kathekon, the idea of appropriate action for the situation.
okay, and another one. Impossible without your consent. Tell me about that.
This is huge. It's the idea that external things, your boss, your workload, that deadline, they can't directly make you feel angry or overwhelmed.
But they feel like they do.
I know, but the Stoics argue the feeling comes from your internal judgment about those things. My work is overwhelming. That's an interpretation, right? Not an objective fact carved in stone. We value our independence. We hate being told what to do.
Yeah.
But then we let an email or someone's comment completely dictate our emotional state. It's a contradiction. The power, the consent lies in our judgment.
That's a tough one to internalize, but powerful. What about do your job? Sounds simple.
Deceptively simple. It's about focus, like a Roman soldier on duty. Concentrate on the task at hand. Tune out the noise, the office politics, things that aren't your direct responsibility. Bill Belichick's famous mantra, right? There's a clarity in just doing the thing you're supposed to be doing. Approach it with full attention.
I like this next one. Never do anything out of habit. Challenges the status quo.
Totally. Musonius Rufus warned against just going through the motions. That's how we've always done it. That's the enemy here. The Stoic ideal is to act intentionally. Ask why you're doing something. Is it for the right reasons? Is it aligned with virtue or just inertia? Philosophical thinking helps break those rote patterns.
And your career is not a life sentence. That feels very relevant today.
Yeah, Seneca wrote about the danger of getting so wrapped up in work that it becomes your entire identity. You lose perspective. He talks about people who can't let go, even when it's clearly time, because their whole sense of self is tied to the job. We need meaning beyond the org chart.
Definitely. And lastly, the umbrella idea. Protect your peace of mind.
It's central, isn't it? Epictetus stressed guarding your perceptions, your judgments, because that's what protects your inner calm, your integrity, your stability. It's the key to freedom from fear and unnecessary upset.
That Reddit thread you mentioned had a bunch of other quick exercises too, right? Any standouts?
Yeah, it was a good list. Examine impressions. That's the pause before reacting again. Remind yourself of impermanence. Helps appreciate the now. The reverse clause. I like that one. Do your best, accept whatever happens. Kind of like prepare for the worst, hope for the best, but with acceptance built in.
What else?
How can I use virtue here and now? Turning problems into training grounds. And speak little and well. Basically, don't gossip. Speak thoughtfully when you need to. Choose your words and your company wisely.
Good advice for life in general.
Okay.
Okay, to really ground all this, maybe we can quickly touch on some of the deeper philosophical underpinnings. The Stanford Encyclopedia entry laid out some core Stoic ideas.
Sure. It helps to see the bigger picture. They saw philosophy as like a single organism.
Wow.
Logic, ethics, physics, all interconnected.
Like an egg or a field. I remember those analogies.
Exactly. Logic is the shell or the fence. Ethics is the white or the fruit. Physics is the yolk or the soil. The goal is ethical, living well, being virtuous, but you need the whole system. You need the reasoning tools of logic and an understanding of the world from physics.
And they were materialists, right?
Hmm.
Believed only physical stuff exists.
Pretty much, yeah. Radical materialism. Only bodies can act or be acted upon. That includes the soul, reason, virtue. They saw these as physical states or processes. Though they did have these four weird incorporeals like time and meaning, but the focus was on the physical.
And this pneuma thing, like a life force.
Kinda, yeah. Like a vital breath or tension that permeates everything, giving things their qualities and holding them together. Different levels of it explain rocks versus plants versus animals. For humans, it's the basis of the rational soul.
Okay, and the whole determinism versus free will thing, how do they square that circle?
Yeah, the classic problem. They were determinists, everything caused by prior events, fate, divine reason, whatever you call it. But they insisted our choices, our assent to impressions, are up to us. Their famous analogy is a cylinder on a slope. Someone pushes it, external cause determined, but how it rolls depends on its own shape, its nature. Similarly, external events happen, but how we react, the judgments we assent to, depend on our character, which is our responsibility, so our actions are co-feeded.
Okay, that helps. And this power of assent, synkatathesis, that's key to their psychology.
Absolutely central. It's the rational mind's ability to critically evaluate impressions. Is this true? Is this good? And choose whether to accept them. Our virtue, our knowledge, our actions all flow from these acts of assent. It's why judgment is so important.
And logic wasn't just abstract games for them.
No way. Logic, especially dialectic reasoning correctly, was essential for wisdom. It was the toolkit for analyzing impressions, avoiding falsehoods, understanding the world. They had a pretty advanced propositional logic, actually.
And knowledge, episteme, was a high bar.
Very high, like unshakable, systematic understanding, something maybe only the ideal sage truly has. But they had a more accessible level, too. Catalepsis, or cognition, a firm grasp of something true based on a clear impression. That's the foundation we all work with.
Right, and ethically, it all comes back to eudaimonia, happiness or flourishing.
Yes, that's the goal. But for Stoics, happiness is living virtuously. Virtue is the only real good. Everything else, health, wealth, reputation, are indifference.
Indifference. But surely health is better than sickness.
Yes. They called things like health preferred indifference and sickness dispreferred. They aren't good or bad in themselves, morally speaking, but it's natural and reasonable to prefer health, act to maintain it, etc. Choosing reasonably among these indifferences is part of living according to nature.
And passions, strong emotions, they saw those as bad judgments.
Essentially, yes, false judgments, usually involving mistaking an indifferent thing, like wealth or reputation, for a true good or evil, and then reacting inappropriately. Like intense fear about losing money or rage at an insult, it comes from flawed reasoning.
And this naturally leads to caring about others. Justice, cosmopolitanism.
Exactly. Because reason is universal, we're all citizens of the cosmos. And oikiosis, this natural sense of affinity, starts with self-preservation but extends outwards to family, community, eventually all humanity. Valuing consistency and reason leads to valuing justice.
Okay, wrapping up the deeper stuff. Psychology Magazine brought it back to modern relevance, right?
Yeah, it really echoed the practical points, how negative visualization helps counter our optimism bias and builds resilience for when things do go wrong. The whole hope for the best, prepare for the worst idea, but with a stoic spin.
And seeing obstacles as opportunities.
Right, not just roadblocks, but chances to practice virtue, to build character. Your reaction defines you, not the event. And that reminder, memento mori, remember, you must die not to be morbid, but to focus you on what's truly important, to live intentionally now.
So wrapping this all up, it feels like the big takeaway is Stoicism gives you this incredibly practical toolkit, doesn't it?
Totally. For managing emotions, clarifying what you value, building that inner strength, staying present. Real tools for real life.
And it's not just ancient history. We've seen how relevant it is for, the office handling stress, just navigating the modern world.
Yeah, the amazing thing is how much focus it puts on your internal world. Your thoughts, your judgments, your reactions. That's where your power lies, according to the Stoics. Learning to manage that gives you a kind of calm strength to deal with whatever comes your way externally.
Absolutely. And like that quote goes, maybe it's time to stop arguing about what a good person is and just try to be one. So for everyone listening, we really encourage you to maybe pick one of these exercises, just one,
Yeah, don't try to do everything at once.
right? Just try one that resonated, see how it feels. Even small steps, practice consistently can make a real difference. This deep dive, it's really just a starting point.
Definitely. There's so much more to explore in the sources we mentioned and beyond.
So dig deeper if this sparked your interest. Find what works for you. And maybe, just maybe, think about this. Which of these exercises feels most challenging or perhaps most needed in your life right now? Starting there could be quite revealing.